we have the absolute honor, the absolute privilege of featuring today, taking some time off from his North American tour and actually celebrating his birthday today, the one and only David Gray. David Gray, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, people. Shall I begin with some music?
Please, let's do that.
Okay, this is one from my latest record, Gold in a Brass Age. This one's called Tight Ship. Better than to know myself, that fear be damned, that love be wealth, to sing it like a mountain stream, to dance like no one sees, that blinked an eye, flashed a smile, but missed it by a country mile. Now sleek to dive in mirrored pools, to dance like no one sees. All right. Now sleek to dive in mirrored pools, heaven, to dance like no one sees. So seize the day, yeah, aim it true, and we'll live the way that lovers do. We'll go defenseless, open wide, and we'll let the senses be our guide. We'll break the surface, snap these strings, and relearn the grace of selfless things. We'll dance like no one sees, dance like no one sees, dance like no one sees. And sleep to dive in mirrored pools, in mirrored pools, so sleep to dive and kiss the face, yeah, snip these strings, relearn the grace of selfless things. Then sleep to dive in mirrored pools, in mirrored pools, so sleep to dive. Tonight we dance like no one sees. Tonight we dance like no one sees us, babe. Tonight we dance like no one sees us, honey. Tonight we dance like no one sees. Thank you, Chicago. Or should I say world? Okay. And that was a new one. I'll roll straight on to an old one, so you don't become disoriented. This is This Year's Love. Any proposals of marriage that occur during this song will be, there's a surcharge if you just look at the small print on your ticket, your virtual ticket. This year's love had better last. Heaven knows it's high time, and I've been waiting on my own too long. When you hold me like you do, it feels so right. I now start to forget how my heart gets torn when that hurt gets thrown, feeling like you can't go on. Turning circles and time again, cut like a knife. Ah, now, if you love me, got to know for sure. 'Cause it takes something more this time, sweet, sweet lies. Ah, now, before I open up my arms, it fall, losing all control. Every dream inside my soul. Won't you kiss me on that midnight street? Sweep me off my feet, singing, ain't this life so sweet? And this year's love had better last. This year's love had better last now, honey, I know, yeah, yeah. And who's to worry if our hearts get torn when that hurt gets thrown? Don't you know this life goes on? Won't you kiss me on that midnight street? Sweep me off my feet, singing, ain't this life so sweet? This year's love had better last. 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 Well, this year's love had better last. Whoa, yeah. This year's love had better last. Thank you. This is like the old days. Shall I come and join you, Kevin?
Would you like to, or wherever you're more comfortable, David? You are, clearly, thank you for that. You're such a gifted musician and songwriter. You make it look so easy. Is it easy, that creative process that you go through to get from where you are working through those songs to that, sitting down and performing that?
Well, obviously, I've sung that song an awful lot. So that's relatively straightforward. I've had a lot of practice. It's the tip of the iceberg when you hear the record or you see the show. It's the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot more that happens to enable that. So yeah, you can't just sort of turn it on. You've got to work your way into it. So yeah, I mean, I'm not much of a musician. If the truth be told, I couldn't play someone else's music. I can only really do a decent job of playing my own, and that's after having had an awful lot of practice at it, So it's all that hard work. All the cliches are true. It makes it a lot easier, so that while I'm singing a song and operating my fingers and my feet and my voice and my mind, I can also be thinking other things, more generally about the show, sometimes about the shopping. Should I? No, yeah. So it's just a practice thing. I mean, I've done an awful lot of it now. So I want to be in that place where, when I'm at the instrument or singing the song, I'm so in control of the actual physical process that my mind is free to make other calculations. For example, on the gig itself, what am I going to say next? What am I going to do next? Am I going to play that song? What's this audience like? Da-da-da. Those are the sort of thoughts I'm having, scanning the crowd. So it's no different than anything. Yeah, it's just like being a sportsman or something. You've got to be super fit so that when you're in a game, you've got the mental agility to make calculations. And being up on stage, obviously things go wrong. Audiences can be different, can be unpredictable. You've got to be on your toes, and that's the part where you need to be in control of all the other stuff. I mean, this is relatively straightforward. It's not the greatest keyboard I've ever played. Not that I'm complaining. It's fairly basic now. But when I'm doing the live show tonight, I've got a complex setup. So the most technical setup I've ever had. So sort of training and rehearsing for this show took a little bit more effort because I had to be on a sort of technical aspect. I had to be much more further down the line, because I'm not only doing the performing, I'm also sampling myself. So I've got vocal sampler, guitar sampler, and a piano sampler, so that I can record what I'm playing, but I have to start the loops and stop the loops, and it's all counterintuitive. So if you imagine a count of four of 1, 2, 3, 4, the loop will start. If I kick on the 4 of the previous bar, the loop comes on the 1. And if I want to end the loop, I have to preempt the amp. So I'm kicking out of time with the music while also holding it's hardest on the piano. It's easier on the guitar, but because I'm using a foot switch, which is in time to sustain. So all those sort of things have added another layer of complexity to what I do. But I've got there, and what it facilitates musically and creatively on stage is like watching a studio on stage. So I can layer guitar parts, piano parts. Of course, it needs to be anchored to the computer, which this tour is to some extent. You have to have a language, a MIDI language that's speaking to all the various components so that they're in time with each other. But anyway, that's my gig. So looking from my point out, it's got a technical aspect. Then there's the physical aspect. And the most human, sort of vulnerable part is the voice itself. And that's the most important as far as I'm concerned. So all the music is there to support the vocal and the lyric. And that's the thing that's most likely to erode due to fatigue, drinking the rider, whatever it is. It's vulnerable. So that's the part that usually keeps me awake at night, worrying about that.
And that's changed over time. Have you? Do you still get pre-show jitters? Does it still feel new to you, or do you feel that you've mastered this craft and
you never have? I mean, again, I'll just lapse back into cliche. Of course, for big shows, the adrenaline will be ticking. It's ticking through my system now because I'm going to be playing to 3,500 people later on. I'm only going to get one shot at it. I can't come back and do it again. So. And I think the longer I do this, the more finite it becomes. My voice will only sustain in the manner of the way I can sing right now for a given period of time. I don't know how long that is. I've done 30, maybe 35 American tours. It's a lot, and it's a big commitment. But you know, and every time you do one, you're like, oh yeah, this is a lot of hard work. You know, it's great as well. There's been a vibrancy to this tour in particular. It's had a little bit extra somehow. So it means even more to me, I guess, is what I'm saying as I go on, rather than I just get blasé. I think there was a point with success when suddenly you're selling out bigger and bigger and bigger rooms, and just every show sells out. You begin it for granted, just like anyone. If someone was cooking you breakfast every day, would you like mango, pineapple, blah, blah, you'd soon be like, yeah, I think the mango today. You know, it's like, this isn't normal. And of course, you reach a place where that doesn't happen, and suddenly you're fighting to sell tickets again. And so every time we have a big show and there's a great crowd, and that connection is there, then it's something to treasure. So the tour used to be a bit of a party. These days, it ain't so much so. And, you know, that's because if the gig went down and it didn't happen, and that connection didn't happen for whatever reason, as Springsteen once said, the buck stops here. You know, I've got to make that show happen no matter what. So I want to extract whatever nutrients I want out of the gig. And you've got to be on your game to do that. I don't want to just give everyone the big songs. That's easy. I've got to take them on a journey through some of the things they didn't know they were going to enjoy and listen to. And that way it will satisfy everybody. So that's the gig. And it's the usual wrestling match between sort of gratifying the audience and keeping the gig interesting for everybody, including the band and me.
Yeah. You've had tremendous amount of success, 26 years, 11 albums. Certainly someone who is as successful as you doesn't spend a lot of time looking backwards, but are there memories as you look over your career, that certain things that make you smile, certain things that bring kind of warmth?
So much of it. I mean, you know, weirdly, I love the beginning bit when it was really awful. You know, it's entertaining to think back to all that stuff now, because life isn't so awful anymore. If it had continued in that vein, it wouldn't have been funny. I mean, you're watching Spinal Tap in sort of 1996 was a painful experience, because it's too well observed. It's like, oh my God, the sense of futility was so thick on the ground. So I love looking back at those bits, because it's so human to look back at just how rough around the edges I was as a performer, and just how bad the whole thing was, you know, really, on so many levels, the way the record company were or weren't putting any effort into they didn't know what to do with me. And then there's obviously the story of the success itself, which is almost like a film within a film, if I look back over my career. And that bit was just incredible, I mean, and so rewarding on so many different levels. We came from nowhere. There was no gatekeeper sort of saying, yes, this will be this year's success story, shall be David Gray's White Ladder. It was self-released. I personally drove 5,000 copies of the record to the airport to get them to Ireland in time for Christmas, you know, and that was when we suddenly had a record that was actually selling, you know, for the first time ever, and we'd funded it, and it was incredible. That ride up, which took several years before White Ladder connected here and all around the world. We started in '98 in Ireland. That's where we got our momentum. It then rolled out around the world in the year 2000 approximately. So that was an incredible journey. I think that what was latent in the success wasn't obvious, because we were too busy. We were in our little bubble just doing it. So yeah, the shows were selling out. I mean, what's not to like? It was amazing. It was just one enormous party for about 3 years. It was the most wonderful feeling. I've never laughed so much in my life, you know. We would just get out of our minds, drunk and stoned in the back of the bus, and just be laughing our heads off, listening to tons of music. Oh, this is brilliant, you know. And then someone would drag me out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. Come on, Dave, you've got to go and play Babylon on a radio station. And that's what it was like for a few years. But it was, that was an amazing experience, and one that took many years to negotiating the aftermath of that. Took a while, but they're rosy memories, really. Funnily enough, I'm just trying to write some of them down at the moment, and it does make me smile, remembering specific things. It's like, lots of good memories. I've loved it all. I wouldn't change any of it, even the crap bits.
Yeah. You talked about getting practiced and just getting more comfortable with the performance. It does, over that time, as you were ascending to fame and as you've kind of built on top of that, has the process of inspiration or the writing process for you changed? Is it still the same as it was back early?
I think it's probably fundamentally the same process, but my methods have changed enormously, and my perspective on it. I think when I started, I perceived that to write a song, you needed to imprint your feelings into it with as much gusto as you could manage. You know, I've got to get all my emotion into this song. Whereas now, I just think the emotion finds its way into the song anyway. So songs are made of emotion. It's actually being more objective. The best songs, you're both objective and subjective at the same time. Something happens, they call it inspiration. The song sort of drops out of the air almost into your lap. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. I always feel with those songs that they've been waiting a while to be born. There's something sort of, you've been turning an aspect of it over inside for a long time, and suddenly you're basically giving shape to something that has no form. That's what music is. You're shaping something and it's coming from inside, and vocalizing, singing is like a deeper form of conversation. As far as I'm concerned, I think all language began as music. It was a musical response to the world. A word is just music to refer to something. Obviously, we've elaborated enormously since language began. It's become a whole world for lawyers and all kinds of different people to inhabit. So let's not go far down that road. But I feel that the tap root of singing goes down into these deep feelings, or should, and writing. And that's what you want. I want to find somewhere that's beyond something I'm thinking. It's something deeper, beyond my sort of immediate conscious mind. That's what I'm trying to get to. But you can't just unlock that box all the time. You've got to trick yourself into it. So anyway, to cut a long story short, writer's block and all those sort of things, they're very real. And I think they're just value judgments, and it's just like anything in life. If you've done a certain amount of things, and I've written some songs that people think are good and other songs that they're not as bothered about or whatever, you start to judge things. So as I write, if I just write the same old way, and I write myself a little bit of melody and some piano chords, then I find a vocal melody to go over. And then I start looking for a lyric. I'll very quickly start going, what's this about exactly? And why should it be important? And why should a fairly wealthy man writing his 295th song, why should this matter to anybody? And you have those kind of negative thoughts. But of course, they're not going to get you anywhere. They don't propel you anywhere, and they are completely irrelevant. The only important thing is to make the song and assess it later, because it will just connect you to the next thing. And the more fluid that connection, in painting, you'd call it a hand-eye connection, like drawing. The more you look, and the more you tune in, and the more you attune your pencil to what you're looking at, the better the drawing becomes, and the more, a bit like what I'm saying about being on stage, so you can think other thoughts, more objective thoughts, while you're in the subjective moment. That's what you're looking for. So anyway, there's a lot of destructive stuff there that you've got to kind of get out of the way. And the way that I'm getting past that at the moment is to work very, very quickly and work backwards. So I work from ideas. I just jot things down all the time, notes. And I write sort of non-sequiturs, really. They're just little lines that don't really relate to anything. But I'll see that there's a sort of sequence, and there's an idea that's emerging. And I'll find a cadence in one line and begin to try and sing that line and find out what it suggests. So on my last time, like the birds of the high Arctic. And I started just with that. And then I looked for what the chords that might go underneath that were. And then I tried to make those chords a little bit more interesting. And I realized I was turning around in a certain way, timing-wise. And I just started there. But working backwards from the lyric, from the note, into music, it completely disables my sense of taste. I don't have any idea of whether the tune I'm writing is anything about it at all. All I know is it's what a part of me is telling me to do. And I'll just follow that through until I've got a fairly shaped thing. And then, like I say, worry about it later. And with a song like that, when people came in and started to play it, I love this song, Dave, I love it. And I was like, really? That's so good to hear, because I still don't know what to think of it. So with this latest record, it's exactly what I did. I basically worked backwards, sometimes from sounds as well. We created sounds. I didn't want to just be formulaic and use or here's a guitar part, here's a piano part, let's put some drums on. We spend a lot of time creating sampler instruments basically from the real sound. So if I played a series of chords on the piano, we'd play it in several octaves, and we'd record. This is quite technical and boring, really, but it's just to show you the lengths we went to in order not just to have a piano playing a set of chords. The hit of the chord, as you bang, we cut that off, and we just used the remainder, the resonance within the hood of the piano. And the piano is like a creature. And living within its hood is this incredible world of sort of resonance and sort of reverb, which is actually quite a magical place. But it's a bit like you have to look down on a sort of insect's eye view because it's quite small. So when you hear the hit of the piano, you don't really hear this aftermath that much. But if you turn the mics way up and then you get rid of this hit, you've got this beautiful sort of flowering, blossoming of sound after the event. So we made this crazy sampler instrument, which was basically the piano, but with all the notes taken off and just the aftermath sustaining in the piano. And it took absolutely hours, days probably. I didn't do all the hard work. That was just my idea. Can you make me one of these? But then it sounded fantastic, and that we used it in 2 songs, Mallory being one of the songs on the new record. It led to that song. It unlocked that song completely because it had this otherworldly sound. And I stepped into that sound with the lyric and felt like I was somewhere I'd never been before. And that just felt right. So I've sort of defaulted to basically trying to take the path choose the path less taken kind of thing, both sonically, lyrically, and in every other way, because I'm finding that I'm finding I get more into what I'm doing, the creative aspect, faster that way. And I'm just more interested. I'm interested in the more the poetry of what's there, of the lyric and the empty space within the music. You know, I sort of feel like I'm barely beginning. So I'm not so interested in the commercial aspects of like hit writing or anything, more pursuing this to go deeper really into what I'm feeling and sensing. And this, I used a very sort of cut and paste style with the lyrics. It's less narrative based. But the thing was, after all this fragmentation, basically it was making like a cubist version of a record in a way. We cut it up and we pasted it, and all the lyrics were very much done that way as well. They're fragments that I sort of assemble, and then I'll get into a flow. It's sort of very indirect, and yet when I stand back from the record, all the editorial decisions that were made and all the words, the color of the words that I chose is very revealing. And in fact, it tells the story of all the emotion that's been in my life for the last however many years. So, in answer to your first question, which was about half an hour ago, that is basically, the process hasn't changed. The same thing is still happening and imprinting on the mics. But my methods have changed because it's become much more psychological. And not only that, I've done it so much. I've been at the sort of coalface that much that I've realized you don't need to use brute force. There's all kinds of ways to prise open this sort of magical realm. You don't have to go hard at it. Sometimes climbing the mountain, it's a traverse that you need. You go across. So that's where I'm at the moment.
So the new album, Gold and a Brass Age, the music feels like one part of a large artistic expression, a very big part. Yeah, but with the illustrations from London Boy Tattooer, and then what Eric Dreyer has done in his contributions to your video on the sapling, you have all these things sort of surrounding it. Are they influences? Are these the sort of endpoints that you're using to kind of write from? What are those for you?
I'm not, funny enough, but I could. And there's one track on the record where I did write from a visual. So I filmed this. I was on the beach one day. I've got a house up on the coast. And it's massive sort of, it's a bit like the east coast of America, big, massive sandy beaches and dunes. And I was sort of wading up this river, and the wind was blowing in a kind of crazy way, and the water was kind of scintillating in this sort of mad way, and my shadow was sort of falling onto this thing. I thought, actually, that looks really good. I'm going to film this. It was a bit shaky, but I did a few minutes of this filming with this kind of, and I was looking a bit, it was blowing my shirt sort of across, and it was hard to tell what it was. But I thought, I really like this, and I put it up on the monitor in the studio, and I just started to play along. So I used that as a sort of point of inception, an actual visual image, And I could see that you could put a movie on and just turn the sound down and sort of, play along. So there's I see all these things as very valid ways of, sometimes I hear someone say something on the bus and I'll just write that down. I think that is a work of genius. I'm starting there. This is the next song. So it springs from all those things. Eric Dyer, that video is the best thing I've ever done, best video I've ever done, bar none. And the artwork for this record too is the best that's ever come. And the way that those things came together, it's so rare, because I'm not really that interested in video, truth be told, at all. I mean, I never was. I'm not that person. I don't do any screen time if I can help it. I never turn the TV on. So it's not something I've ever engaged with. With music, I've never watched people's videos. Well, I did when I was a kid. It's a total lie, actually. I love videos. Anyway, so what am I saying? Anyway, the thing with Eric Dyer, the zoetrope, the sapling was the song that he did the video for. The story behind that was really quite lovely, and it's all quite algorithmic. You'll be pleased to know. I'm going to tie into some tech now. I was talking about making a video for that track, and the first image is I'm going to lie down in the grass and watch an acorn split in two and take root. So it's like a time-lapse image, and I thought, well, it's just got to be a sort of time-lapse kind of video. But then you start looking at time-lapse footage, you think this is just so hackneyed, we can't do this. This is too boring. And Amanda in my office said, well, what about zoetropes, a kind of different kind of animation? I said, yeah, okay, good one. So I just started Googling it, and Edward Muybridge and all this sort of very famous stuff. And then under the Edward Muybridge things was this guy, Eric Dyer. It was like a TED talk. And I just clicked on that and watched it. And I really liked him. He was very sort of self-deprecating, funny. But his zoetropes were absolutely amazing. And there's not many artists working with zoetropes. He was talking about Muybridge in the thing. So I thought, Christ, this is brilliant. And then he said this line. He said, so zoetrope is from the Greek. Zoe is life, and trope, which is to turn. So it's the wheel of life. And I think, well, that is my song. And that is slam dunk. This is the way this video has to go. Zoetrope it up. So then you start to realize how long it takes to make a zoetrope. And for 3.5 minutes, you're like, that's a lot of scissors and glue. Do you know what I mean? With something really shit turning around and filming it. So I thought, let's get in touch with Eric Dyer. So we got in touch with Eric, and he couldn't have been nicer. And not only that, he was a fan. He loved the track. He'd listened to White Ladder and a few other records earlier in his life. He'd really connected with my music at one point. So it was absolutely perfect. So he sort of adapted some of his existing zoetropes and then did some specific ones relating more to the song. And we licensed a little bit of time-lapse footage of an acorn splitting that he managed to chop up. But it's a lot of work. So it took months from him saying yes. It was a good 2 or 3 months before he'd finished. But it was really worth it. And then we had to get me into the video. So I went out into the forest and they projected it on this massive screen. It's like everything these days. The budget was about 50p, A bunch of kids putting cameras and stuff. So what can possibly go wrong? But it came out really great. And I'm very, very pleased with that. But when things line up like that, I feel like I'm on the right road. It feels like this was meant to be. And London Boy doing his real name is Sean, doing the illustrations. That was a rather lovely story as well. And exactly the same. It's so rare that you have an idea and it ends up better than what you thought it was going to be. And that's how it was with him. We were looking at ideas for the record, and I said, I've just got a feeling that each song should be a drawing. It's a sort of little chart of drawings. So we started looking at all these different people who did that kind of thing. And then my daughter was doing some work, in inverted commas, in our office during the summer holidays, and they asked her to critique social media from the other artists that come through the management team there, the younger guys. And so she'd done this whole thing of what she didn't like about their social media stuff, and then some illustrations of what she did like. And the last one was London Boy Tattooer. So she was quite proud of this thing. They were very impressed at the office that she'd done this thing and slated all their artists for being absolutely hopeless on social media and showed them the ones that she liked. At the bottom, London Boy Tattooer. I said, I really like this guy's stuff. She said, oh yeah, he's really cool. He's really cool. I said, I'm going to try and get in touch with him and see if he can do the drawings. It took a while to get hold of him. Young people are kind of hard to get hold of. But yeah, when he came on board, I met him, and we sat there and we went through all the tracks, and I gave him all my notes on each one. And basically, he just sort of passed them through his little sort of South London filter. But it has that little bit of wit and sort of cheeky London. This is very much a London record, I think. It's very sort of urban. Ben, who made the record with me, lives right in the centre of town. I mean, literally about 50 yards from Oxford Street. So he's right in the centre there. I'm a little bit further out, but it has that London, because he's young and he's kind of glued into this kind of, I don't know how cities rub off on you, but they do. And you don't realise how much detail you're taking in and how much you're changing your stance. There's a theatricality, isn't there? There's a performance to living in the city, and each of us are a part of it. So it has this sort of London stance, this record. So to have a London sort of tattoo artist, I mean, I'm not into tattoos and stuff, but just to have this London artist, and I love his stuff because it's kind of simple, but old school, but it's the idea that he's interested in. He's always got a cheeky idea, like the hand with the chopstick picking up an acorn, out of the soy sauce type thing. And I love that stuff. It's a bit like sort of Stussy or Supreme. It's like that kind of witty skate kind of humour. And I guess the tattoo world is part of that kind of counterculture. Anyway, that was a lovely thing. And when he started to come up with the drawings, I was just blown away. I said, man, these are better than what... Because I'd said, it's got to be a moth on the cover. Moth. I'm into moths. He said, I'm really interested. I'm interested in moths. I'm interested in moths. No one ever says that back to me. No, because they've got weird wings and you can kind of put ideas in the wings. I'm like, go for it. Just do it. Then he started having all these moths that were like pulling chains and sort of paradoxical moths. I absolutely loved it. Anyway, that was a perfect fit. And again, I just feel like, oh yes, I was supposed to be here. One foot was supposed to follow another. And even through all these twists and turns, I've ended up here talking to this guy. He's doing this. Yeah. This is right. This was supposed to have happened. That's how it feels. It feels like things really aligned for this record. I mean, in so many ways. And, musically, I couldn't be happier with it. It's everything I wanted it to be. I've never put so much work into a record in my life. That's not to say that the songs took a long time to record. The initial splurge was very, very rapid. Once the idea starts to come, I just want to record it then. So I try and get in ahead of the breaking wave of consciousness. I want to be recording the song before I know what the song is. So the sounds you hear of me finding those notes and those spaces and those angles, it's me discovering for the first time what's possible within that space. So it's literally the sound of grasping. It's the sound of the thing becoming itself rather than you're enacting something you already know. Now, it doesn't always work that way. The song I played, Tight Ship, we had a nightmare with that one, and we did about 15 different versions of it. So with that particular song, it didn't work that way because I couldn't crack it's a very complex chord sequence by my standards. I just couldn't crack it open. It took a little twist of the lyric to suddenly bring the song, eureka, bang, let's do it again. I understand. It needs to be this tempo, this key, da-da-da, let's do it. But yeah, generally the songs were recorded super fast, and then we spend a lot of time on the detail, or maybe, this needs a middle section, or the chorus isn't quite right, we need to find a better chorus, or whatever. We'd go back and sort of tinker. But, there's a lot of tinkering after the event, but the initial splurge was very dramatic and fast. Yeah.
You talked about early in your career literally hand-delivering CDs to Ireland, yeah. And over the course of your career, you've seen this tremendous upheaval in the industry, right? And this move towards digital. Things like YouTube are providing platforms for people who otherwise would have been undiscovered. On the other end, Tom York's personal archives are hacked a week ago, right? And that music held ransom.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So there's plus and minus to it. But in this kind of change, how has that affected you? What are your thoughts on where the industry is headed?
Well, it's the last 15, 20 years have been a bit like cinema after the birth of TV. I mean, take the sales out of any industry, it's going to struggle. So it's been tough. I mean, but my gig has always just been to make the music and do the show, and still is. The rest of it is just noise, as far as I'm concerned. How everybody decides to interrelate and share, I don't really care. I'm not a social media person. I'm not a techie person. I I believe in the music and the essential connection, the communication that makes. And all I've ever known is how to do that, make that the best way I can, make the best record I can, and then do the best show I can. And that's my formula. That's it. But it's been a struggle because, like I say, if you take all the money out of everything, I'm making my video, and it's like the budgets used to be like, hey, 60 grand, 70 grand. When White Ladder was going, well, 200 grand. You spend more money making the one video than you've made making all the records in your entire career, and it's shit. It's like, oh, great, 200 grand for a shit video. And that's what the business used to be like, because money was just coming in like, shh. No one cared, and it's just some ego in the video department. Yes, it must be like this. So it's gone completely flipped. Now he's like, £10,000? Can we have 10,000 for a video? Ooh, we've got 25 in for the 3 videos for this album, and we're hoping to get a few other bits of an EPK and everything. It's like, what? You've just got a bunch of kids running around pointing cameras and iPhones at things. That's how it's ended up. So there's lots of erosion, There's lots of really, I think the saddest things for me are the studio system and the way that's been eroded, and all that expertise isn't going to come back. So, people having the money to record properly and the kind of records that could be made, Talk, some of my favorite ever records, they really didn't sell a lot of copies, but there was enough. Maybe around the world, 300,000 or 400,000 albums on or 250,000, but that brings in a certain amount of revenue. It's not completely mad to spend, 6 months in the studio making this crazy thing. No one really knows what it is or what to do with it. Mm-hmm. That whole adventure has sort of gone. But then technology has enabled people to make things at a very cheap scale. So there's a different kind of skill set that's become involved. It's become very, very direct. And one of the interesting things about what changed was you think, when I was growing up, it was all going to be about sound improving and technology improving so you could enjoy the music at a higher sort of quality. But actually the opposite happened. And people were just listening on their phones, kids just listening in a really crap way to something streamed on YouTube that's really just a pirate of the actual thing. And it sounds absolutely terrible. But they don't care. It's just the gist of the song. It's pop music. They get it. They're sharing it. They're listening now. Yeah, whatever. So that was a surprise to see what happened there. But yeah, it's just you're just going to stay in the game. I think if artists try and get too sort of contemporary and too kind of switched on, they look a bit silly. Well, I would certainly feel silly pretending I was a part of everything that's happening. I'm not. There's probably a sort of a Google word for what I am. I'm like some kind of weird dinosaur reptile. I'm a write-off that you don't even bother sending an email to. No, don't forget. He's one of those. Forget about him. He's over there. Fence him off. Just leave him. He'll slowly decay like sort of, nuclear products over the next century. He'll be gone soon. I don't engage. All I can do is do the music part and then meet the people in the gig.
Perfect. We take some questions from the audience. I think we've got some people that wanted to ask you a few things.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Caroline.
Hi,
I want to
Caroline.
thank you for writing a song about Caroline. And I was wondering what the inspiration behind that song was.
Well, I'm afraid that story is a little bit disappointing because there wasn't really a moment of inspiration. I think it's just sometimes you need the right word to fit the song. And the way that song was written it was actually written at the time of White Ladder. So I was just programming myself. At the end of a day in the studio, I had all these weird synth sounds, which you hear on that particular track. I just made this little thing, this glitchy little sort of synthy, and I started to play an acoustic guitar over the top, and I thought, yeah, this is good, this is good. And that's just the word Caroline just came into my mind, and then the rest of the song was written. So there wasn't a Caroline, honest, My wife might be watching.
I have a really short story first. I'm Irish, so first of all, thank you for driving the 5,000 CDs to Ireland. Much appreciated, and I know you're much loved there, and it's just a joy to hear you today. But my story is around about when White Ladder was really popular in Ireland. My then boyfriend was coming over to, we were going to have this big reconciliation, and we'd been fighting off and on. Are we back together? Are we not? And so I put on White Ladder because it was always on repeat. And it's such an emotional record that like we totally broke up. And the full intention was that we were getting back together, but we totally broke up. So thank you, because you saved me from a really bad relationship. Yeah, so thank you. But my question is, who do you listen to for inspiration? So who do you think is doing an awesome job in the world of music right now?
Well, there's a band I've picked up on recently, a few bands, American bands. One called Big Thief, who I really, really like. They're really great. The singer, songwriter, the girl, is really talented and really is doing something different. It's kind of simple format, but somehow different. I really like their stuff. And Bill Callahan, who's not so well known, he's probably my favorite artist in the world. I love Bill. And it's very difficult to see what you can do with a song, really, that's different. And it's rather than take a sort of sonic reinvention, the Bill Callahan approach is more of a sort of tangential, lyrical thing. He's more like a short story writer in the tradition of Raymond Carver or Paul Auster. So he's sort of, for me, he's in this weird niche. He's got the sort of deadpan, Leonard Cohen-esque kind of delivery, a dark, humorous thing, Nick Cave, Leonard Cohen kind of thing. But he does his own thing with it. He's kind of lighter with it. But it's kind of... So I love Bill Callahan, basically. He's my go-to guy if I'm feeling kind of a bit low and in need of a pickup. Yeah. Oh. Let the younger generation speak.
He goes to sleep with the music all the time. So my question is, did you always make music, and have you always been performing, or was there something else that you were interested in doing, like a career path?
I mean, I don't even think I was as calculated as thinking of music as a career path. I think I've always been, whatever this word means, a creative person. So ever since I was little, there's pictures of me just making things. And I think that need to make is incredibly strong for whatever reasons in me personally. I don't think it's a rational thing. I think I need to make a world within a world, somewhere that I feel safe and better about things. And that's essentially the process I'm involved in. It's that reassuring applause within the room, everyone's on the same page, listening to this music as an extension of the thing that you've written. That's like nectar to me, but it's more profound than that. I need it like in a really deep way. So when I was younger, I painted a lot and drew a lot, but there was a certain point when I came out of art school that I left that behind and I just concentrated on writing music, because I guess I felt like I had a bit more to say through music than painting was already sort of almost like an archaic idea in 1987, you know what I mean, when I was at art school. It was all moving towards conceptual art, and people would say, yeah, why not paint what's not there? And I'm just going, because I don't want to fucking paint what's not there. I like painting, don't you get it? Painting. So it was, conceptual art is well and good, but so anyway, I left it behind, and I still regret that sort of decision. Because there's something about just the act of drawing and painting that's so wonderful. So I try and get as much color into my lyrics, and these days my sounds as I can. There's a painterliness to the drawing with words that's trying to almost take snapshots with my eyes, sort of thing. So I think I sort of compensate a little bit in terms of the sort of color saturation of my words, but I haven't returned to painting. It's a lie I tell myself, and approximately every couple of years I'm going to get back into painting. But it requires space. It makes a mess. It smells. And time, which is the thing that I never have, and that's the reason it never happens. Is because I'll come off this tour, I'll be exhausted. There'll be a whole line of things to do. I'll have a week or two off. I'll be back into doing all that. Then there's the business of this. I've got touring commitments next year. There's another release. There's another record I've already recorded. I'll just be back, da-da, da-da, da-da. And And then before I know it, I'll be out on the road again. So, you know, I'll be saying, I've got to get back to painting. Someone will be asking me this question in 2 years' time. So I will get back to it, but I think it would be more when I recalibrate my life, you know, so that I'm not traveling so much.
So, Chicago Theater tonight.
Yeah.
Will you celebrate your birthday with us here in Chicago, or are you celebrating on the way up to Minneapolis? How will that happen?
Milwaukee next. It's,
Milwaukee, yes.
Yeah.
I'll skip that one.
Yeah, I think I'll have a few glasses of champagne this evening for
Excellent.
sure. Why not? Yeah, and the gig will be the celebration. This year's a working birthday this year. So I'd celebrated in style last year. That was the big one. It's 10 years. Once you get past 40, you just go, we're counting in tens now. Who cares about 41, 2, 3? No way. 50 is the only one that matters. It's like 60 is the next one for me. I've got my eye on that.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming. We love it when you're in Chicago. We love when you're here. Thank you for visiting. Thank you for coming by Google
Thanks.
as well and spending time
Thank
with
you,
us. David
everybody.
Gray, everybody.